Welcome to another installment of 15 Minutes with Andy as we try to find those great stories in and around Northwest Ohio and teach and learn as we go. And I'm not doing any of the teaching being done by our guests. I'm on that learning end of things, and we're having a ball getting to know different people of all different shapes, sizes, ages, demographics throughout Northwest Ohio. We're glad to be joined by Ryder Brown, who is finishing his freshman year at Montpelier High School. Going to be a sophomore, right, Ryder?
Oh, yeah.
Are you excited about that, too, huh?
Oh, you know it, Andy.
Yeah. Thanks for being with me today. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So, Ryder, you have a very, very unique story, I think, and a very positive story and an uplifting story to tell. Tell us a little bit, take us inside a little bit, Ryder Brown. Who's Ryder Brown?
Okay, who is Ryder Brown? Well, Ryder Brown is a 16-year-old teenager who lives in suburban, what region of Ohio is this? Northwestern Ohio?
Yes.
And so he lives in a small suburban town in northwestern Ohio called Montpelier with his mom, dad, a annoying but somewhat lovable little sister, and 2 dogs.
The dogs aren't annoying, though, right?
I love them, but they can be.
Yeah, they're like people too, aren't they? Sometimes. And you are, you've had autism basically your entire life, correct? Some form of autism.
Yes, I'm a high-functioning autistic. Yes.
Okay, so when did you first know that something might be a little bit unique to you, Ryder?
Pretty much my whole life. I've always known that there was something. I've had these little quirks with me ever since I was a small child, and it took until I was about I think in 3rd grade, and I can't know for sure. I have a terrible memory of when it comes to remembering how old I was or what grade I was in when I was diagnosed. But I remember from my mom says I think she might have said it was somewhere in 3rd grade when I was diagnosed officially, and I know it was somewhere in the early 2010s, so it's when I was that little.
Okay. So what's that like? I mean, it's a little different for everybody that has autism. What's it like for you? I guess, how would you describe it?
Well, see, I'm not quite so sure how to describe it, because, like you said, it's different for everyone, and I never really felt that much different from anyone else aside from a few quirks. You saw me fidgeting with a little piece of red paper before I came in here. That's one of the things that would help keep me occupied and just help me keep my cool and just keep me from getting bored. Another thing I do, and this is known as stimming in autism, and which is short for self-stimulatory behavior, and some of them which I can't do in public. Some of them I only do at home, but one I do sometimes in public when I'm at school. I rock back and forth. Just sometimes I find it a little boring to sit still for long periods of time. And some things I do at home, I do a pretty loud, obnoxious fake laugh when I'm at home, and I flap my wings up and down like a bird and hop down the hallways. And sometimes I skip up and down the hallways of my house. My parents, for a short while, once even called me hippity hop for a little while.
And it seems appropriate in that instance then, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So what's school been like for you all these years? Both, I mean, just the actual school part in terms of classwork for you, and then also the other part of school, extracurriculars and friends. And what's that been like for you, Ryder?
Do you want my honest answer?
Sure.
Fantastic, all of it. I mean, the one complaint I have is the math, because I'm not much of a math guy. It's never really.
I'm not either.
Yeah, it's really rare you meet someone who actually likes math. I have an Aunt Kelly who's really good at it, really, really good. But math's not really been my favorite. But other than that, I love the school. The teachers are great. I've always had really close bonds with my teachers, and the kids are always really nice and supportive of me, and always just wondering, if they can help. There's a great bunch of kids at that school, and I love each and every one of them, and teachers too. And as a matter of fact, I'm just take a quick second right here, Andy, because I'm gonna have a very special shout out to a specific teacher at the school who's actually a longtime listener of your podcast, Mr. David Bauer. I hope you're listening to this, and I appreciate you, man, and I'm going to dedicate this whole podcast interview to you, because I know you love this podcast, and, you're a pretty good history teacher, and I really love your history class, so if you're watching this, you're awesome.
I like to hear that. David Bauer is a great person, too, to give a shout-out to, and you've had a lot of those special teachers through the years, haven't you?
Yes, indeed, I have.
And those teachers have helped kind of shape you, along, of course, mom and dad and your family. That's second to none. They've been great, I know. But teachers and your peers have been very good throughout your entire life, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
So Montpelier as a whole, very welcoming community, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
What has been a kind of a lasting impression of growing up so far in Montpelier? I know you're still in the process of growing up, but what's it like growing up as a teenager in Montpelier for you, Ryder?
It's great. It's the town's really small. All the neighbors are friendly. Everyone's smiling and waving. We see little kids playing out in their yards, and that's just one of the things I love about living in a small town. It's just all nice and quiet, and the neighbors are friendly. And one of my favorite things to do here is I ride this tiny little recumbent bike, which is actually kind of a weird looking bike. It's on 3 wheels and it kind of reclines back a bit, and doctors say it's better for your back. And I'd ride that to the local playground and park, and I love it especially when there's pretty much little to no people there, so I can just put these wireless earbuds I'm wearing in right now and just chill to some tunes, listen to whoever I feel like listening to. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite things to do at the park.
And you're a big music guy, right?
Oh, indeed I am, yes.
Yeah, so tell us where your music tastes, what's the spectrum of your music tastes?
Well, when I was really little, I actually liked a lot of classical music because I watched Little Einsteins a lot, and they teach kids about, famous artists and painters, like Van Gogh, Claude Monet, who's another? Leonardo da Vinci. And so when I was really young, I loved classical music, but then I actually began a quite shocking transition from classical music into classic rock. So there's quite a few honorable classic rock musicians I love, there's way too many, but if I had to narrow down to my top 5, okay, David Bowie at number 5, 4, Def Leppard, Rod Stewart I think is one I'd put in there, Freddie Mercury is definitely one, and of course, I would be remiss if I did not put the late and always great Meat Loaf on my list, because that man truly had a voice unlike any other, and I was truly sad to see him go this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty good top 5 all around. That's a good top 5 for anybody.
Yeah.
What are you involved in? Let's dive into that, because I think this is, I got a reason for bringing this up, but what are you involved in at Montpelier, like away from classroom stuff?
Well, I was involved in the musical this year. You've been there, right?
Yeah.
Bye Bye Birdie? Yeah, yep. I was cast in the role as Conrad Birdie this year, and I loved every second of it. And so I'm very involved in a choir, in a locomotion. We put on concerts, and of course we do musicals and that kind of thing. And yeah,
Ryder, was that scary for you first you're Conrad Birdie and you're performing in front of people, and then of course locomotion and choir performances also in front of people. Is that scary? Because it's scary for anybody. Is that scary for you?
It was at first, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it. Plus, I don't think I probably would have made it if it weren't for my classmates, because I love all my classmates, man. They were always had my back, and they're always so kind and so supportive of me, and they're always cheering me on, and they're always smiling and happy to see me all the time. And that's just one of my favorite parts of the day, is seeing all my classmates in choir. And of course, a choir class wouldn't be the same without our amazingly charismatic teacher, Mrs. Stephanie Kirkham. She is a really amazing choir teacher, really enthusiastic, really passionate about music, and yeah, she's an amazing choir teacher.
Ryder, is there a rush for you? Like when you get up and you always hear performers talk about that rush before a live audience, whatever you're doing. Did you feel that?
Like your heart pounding?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes, I did feel that.
Yeah, it's exciting to know that you're putting on that performance, whatever it might be, tonight, and that audience is so unique. They're the only ones in the world seeing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, terrific stuff. So you hear so much, and here's something I wanted to get across, because I think you did such a wonderful job. For those that haven't seen your video that went viral, and thousands did see it when you spoke to your classmates about. That's kind of what drew me in. I mean, I knew I had seen you in the play, and I thought, boy, you'd be great as a podcast, because we can learn from you and what it's like, and not be afraid or not be, I don't know, I guess feel how to approach and talk to Ryder or anybody with autism, right? So tell us a little bit about the positives of we always hear so much negativity about people that have, whether it be autism or anything on the spectrum. But what are some positives that you I guess see through all of this?
You get your own unique way of seeing things because, well, see, a lot of people think that autism is a disability, but I disagree. I think it's a new ability and a new way to perceive and interpret the world around us. And, you've heard of hyperfixation, right? Mm-hmm. Where autistic people tend to fixate on a certain subject and it's always just buzzing through their heads 24/7. Well, there's actually quite a few autistic people in history and in the modern world today that are using their hyperfixations and using them for creative purposes. Like, for example, Dan Aykroyd, right? The comedic actor?
Yep.
He's on the spectrum too, and two of his hyperfixations are cops and ghosts. Well, when you think of cops and ghosts, what's the movie you think of, Mr. Briggle?
I would think of cops and ghosts would be Ghostbusters.
There you go. That's actually, those two hyperfixations were actually what inspired him to create Ghostbusters. And not only did he star in it, he co-wrote the script. And another film that he was inspired by his hyperfixation on police cops, the Blues Brothers, you know that?
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites as a youth.
Oh, yeah. That was inspired by his hyperfixation on cops, too.
Is Elon Musk also is on the spectrum, isn't he?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and that's another great example. Look at all the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
So, I guess, how would you, Ryder, talk to people that are listening to this podcast about approaching, whether it's you or anybody that's on the spectrum or has autism? What would be your advice to people?
Well, it would be to treat them with the utmost kindness and care and compassion, and keep in mind that they're just like everyone else, but there are certain things you need to research, keep an eye out for. Like, some autistic people hate being touched, so you have to ask them if they like to be touched or not. That being, if you get to know them well enough and know that they have autism and they feel comfortable enough talking about it with you. And you have to understand what their hyperfixations are so you can research that topic and chat with them about it. And if they stim, like, making, like, grunting or making noises or certain movements or, like the things I've said, just, it's not that big a deal. And if it's some are a little bit more subtle than others when it comes to stimming, and if they're a little bit more out there than others with their stimming, then just be patient and just keep in mind that not everything is easy for them, and if that's what helps them cope and calm down, then just remember, if that's what helps them calm down, then that's good. You are already involved in so much. What else do you want to get involved in? Let's just focus on high school right now. Do you have any other passions or anything else that you'd like to dive into before your high school career is over? Of course, yes.
What would those be?
Philanthropy. I think I'd like to be a philanthropist and try to help people. Another thing is, I think I'd like to be a professor of religious studies and maybe teach about different religions of the world as a college professor, something like that. And let's see.
Those are pretty big dreams. I mean, that's way beyond high school. Those are really, really good dreams and really great goals. I started this podcast because I wanted positivity in the world. That's right there, the definition of positivity, what you want to do when you're talking about philanthropy and helping people in the world. Those are terrific ambitions, Ryder.
Thank you.
So that's something that you've always kind of thought about, probably, it sounds like. I mean, if you're thinking about this and you're at the end of your freshman year, it's been on your mind quite a while, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
So, what's next for you just in school? What are you going to do this summer? What's your plans for the summer and getting ready for your sophomore year of high school?
Well, I'm actually getting my first job this summer bagging groceries and stocking shelves at Miller's.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Driver's license somewhere down the road?
Yep.
Yeah, and then you're going to have some freedom then, right?
Yep.
That's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So, what else do you want people to know about you and talking to you and I guess anybody that has autism or anybody that's on the spectrum. What else have we not talked about, Ryder, that you would love our listeners of this podcast to know?
Well, I think one thing I'd like them to know is that there's a rumor that autistic people are less intelligent than their neurotypical pals. That's not true. That is 100% false, because history is full of highly intelligent autistic people. Like Albert Einstein is a good example. We can't know for sure, since we weren't there to know the guy and see what his diagnosis was. But a lot of people and historians say that it's highly likely that he was on the autism spectrum. Another one, best-selling author Mark Twain is rumored to have been on the spectrum.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, did not know that about Mark Twain.
And let's see, who's another? Oh yeah, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is rumored to have been on the spectrum too, and he composed his very first symphony. And do you know how old he was when he composed his first symphony?
I did it one time, but I forgot. How old?
8 years old, and he composed a symphony. Can you believe that?
You have to be. I mean, if you listen to classical music, Amadeus is in there, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Podcasts. We talked off before we even started recording this. You are embracing and love podcasts and love to listen to different podcasts today, don't you?
I do indeed, yes.
And what are some other interests that you have?
Well, let's see. I think I'd like to be a musician someday. I'm thinking of getting involved in the music industry someday.
Okay.
And an actor. I think I'd like to be an actor, a comedic actor for the most part right now, but I think I'd like to step into other genres of film, like action or horror or drama, especially if it's some drama about autism. Those are awesome, especially like things like The Good Doctor and things like that. I love those.
Ryder, you've talked about a couple of teachers, and you've got great classmates and great fellow students, whether they're in your class or not at Montpelier, that make you feel very, very good every day. But you'd probably be remiss. I'll give you an opportunity here to talk about your family and what they mean to you and have meant to you and will continue to mean to you throughout all of this.
You mean like my family, like my immediate family, my mom and dad?
Yeah, mom, dad, anybody, yep.
They mean the world to me, man. I mean, my dad, one of our favorite things to do together is, well, even though my mom didn't like it, we actually used to watch raunchy TV shows like Family Guy behind her back when I was really little, and we always used to giggle at how inappropriate they are, but how funny they are at the same time. And my mom, she always encouraged me to be kind to people and have an open mind and an open heart and respect other people regardless of their differences. And I think I owe a tremendous amount of who I am today to her, because she shaped me a lot throughout my life, and I love her very much. I love you, Mom.
That's just an awesome piece of advice for anybody listening right now, too. So, yeah, thanks for instilling that, Stacy. And if everybody continues to do that with all their, and we do, or we try to, but that's a great, imagine the world if we all did that. Every single one of us did that. Can you imagine that place, Ryder?
Yes.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes.
So, I can't believe that our time is just about up. You have done an amazing job visiting with us and talking. I do have some questions. These are fun questions that we ask all of our podcast guests. So are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Do you have a favorite word? And if you have one, what would it be?
Pretty, probably.
Pretty. All right.
Yes.
That's a good word. How about your least favorite word?
You really want to know?
Sure.
I think the word bikini is kind of a weird word for me. Like, I don't know why, I don't like that word. I normally say two-piece. I don't know why. It weirds me out so much.
That's okay. There's no right or wrong answers here. Sound or noise that you love to hear?
Sound or noise I love to hear?
Mm-hmm.
I like to hear my choir class singing. Does that count as a good noise?
Oh, that's a great noise.
Yes.
Sound or noise, you already told me this off air, but sound or noise that you hate?
Cows mooing. It freaks me out to this very day. I can't stand that. And one thing that doesn't help, there are actually 2 farms right next door to our school that have cows, so that's not exactly pleasant for me.
What do you want to do? I'm kind of tweaking this last question because you're my youngest podcast guest so far to date. So what profession do you want to try when you're done with high school? I mean, you kind of teased it a little bit. What would you like to do going forward. You can, and if you don't know 100%, give us a couple of examples or however many you think you might want to try.
Okay, so I don't know 100%. So things I'd like to, like I said, I'm sorry. I think
A professor, I think, was one of them, right?
yes, a professor of religious studies at college. You know, a theologian would technically be the technical term for that. Who is a person who studies religion? I'd like that. As a historian, a actor, musician, a pediatric doctor of some kind, an activist, maybe a reporter or no, a writer. I think I'd like to be a writer because there's so much things that writing can do, and there's a lot of careers that are good for us. Like, you know, there's writers who write books, screenwriters, playwrights, people who write stories for the news, you know, journalists, reporters. Yeah.
Those are you've got a lot of options ahead of you, and you're going to have a wonderful life ahead of you. I always love sitting down with somebody who's looking at their future, and I have zero worries about you going forward. If you're the face of the franchise, the face of the future for our youth, I think the world is going to be in terrific hands. I mean that. I think so much. You've got a great family, great support staff, and great people at Montpelier behind you.
Thank you.
And you have a tremendous set of values, and I can't tell you how excited I was to have you on the podcast. This has been great. Any final thoughts as we wrap up today? Anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to thank a list of these teachers who have helped make this year into a great school year, specifically Andy's brother, Joey Briggle, and a few others, David Bauer, Dawn Gearhart-Smith, Jody Grimm, Carolyn Hopper. No, these are all teachers, by the way, and these are teachers who are very special to me and mean a whole lot to me, and thank you for making this an amazing school year. You got each and every one of you mean a great deal to me, and I couldn't ask for better teachers than the ones I was given this year, so thank you.
Well, Ryder, thank you for taking time to visit with me today and share your story and journey with all of our listeners in podcast land.
My pleasure.
Ryder Brown has been our guest here on 15 Minutes with Andy. We hope you have enjoyed it. And until next time, remember, keep spreading that positivity and putting it out into the world. And we'll look for you again on 15 Minutes with Andy next time.